And now, to present the Arangkada Lifetime Achievement Award, we have the Chairman of the Philippine Association of Multinational Companies Regional Headquarters, Mr. Shamim Qurashi. Let's give him a big hand, please. May we also request the presidents of the Joint Foreign Chambers of Commerce to please come up on stage to join Mr. Qurashi as he awards this year's Arangkada Lifetime Achievement Award. Once again, may we ask the JFC presidents to please come up on stage.
Can you just put that in? Hold on. Are we all here? Thank you. Good afternoon. Distinguished Arangkada partners, ladies and gentlemen, fellow JFC members, and honored guests. I am Shamim Qurashi, Chairman of PAMUI, the Association of Multinational Companies based in the Philippines, who provide operational, logistic, and management support to parent companies and their affiliates globally. They create substantial inward remittances, provide many well-paid jobs, transfer of technology, and world-class human resources development. PAMUI was founded at the request of government to put RHQs of different nationalities under one umbrella to promote the Philippines as a site for regional opportunities. Since 1981, PAMUI has actively promoted the Philippines as a preferred site for regional headquarters, and we have been successful, and many MNCs have been attracted to choose the Philippines as a hub for global services, confirming our belief that we will be able to operate in a hassle-free environment. We have been supported in this by the BOI, SEC, Department of Finance, Bureau of Immigration, and other agencies that we deal with, and we also entered into agreements with LGUs, including Makati and Pasig City. As founding members of the JFC, we work closely with the JFCs to promote the Philippines. We also work closely with BPAP on matters of mutual concern and interest. We are confident that government, recognizing our contributions to the Philippine economy, will reciprocate by maintaining and improving relations, which will ensure that regional offices are attracted to and want to remain in the Philippines. This is the fourth time that I have been privileged to give the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Joint Foreign Chambers. In the last 3 hours, I had the honor to present this to President Fidel Ramos, who was here this morning, but I don't see him here anymore. PESA Director General Didier Lima, welcome ma'am, I'll call you later on to the stage. And Washington CSIP. We are pleased to recognize them again and ask them to be please acknowledged. This year we have selected another very distinguished Filipino for our award, a man who has excelled in both private and public sectors, and I will explain his accomplishments that qualified him for the award. In judging the nominations each year, JFC considers candidates who made major lasting contributions to both the public and private sectors to development of the Philippines economy over the past years. He, like many Filipinos, is Jesuit educated, has lived abroad in Europe and the United States and Thailand, comes from a very distinguished family, the son of an author, journalist, a general, diplomat, foreign secretary, and an artist. He has been a leader and statesman, and also an author and diplomat, a foreign service secretary, and he continues to champion the Philippine competitiveness, the information and communication technology, and outsourcing, industry, healthcare, and disaster preparedness. A graduate of Georgetown and Antonio Universities, he worked at IBM Corporation from 1965 to 1989. During his career, he held many positions and responsibilities as General Manager for Thailand, Burma, Bangladesh, ending as President and General Manager for the Philippines. During his tenure in the Philippines with IBM Philippines, he convinced IBM to open an international procurement office in Manila for IBM manufacturing to find suppliers. IRA-led IMI was the first recipient of an IBM manufacturing contract. In 1986, the Personnel Management of the Philippines named IBM Philippines Employer of the Year, and he was also awarded the Country Manager of the Year by IBM Southeast Asia. After retiring from IBM, he has served 3 presidents. In 1989, he served as a Philippine ambassador to Belgium, Luxembourg, European Union under President Corazon Aquino. In 1992, he served as Secretary of Foreign Affairs under President Fidel Ramos, where he implemented economic diplomacy as a key foreign policy affairs and established an economic diplomacy unit. From 2001 to 2007, he was pro bono presidential advisor to President Gloria Macapagal on competitiveness. While he is generally known primarily for his public services, his accomplishments in the private sector over the last 2 decades have been enormous. His present and past contributions have been including chairman, vice chairman, board member, senior advisor, and of institutions, councils, and associations. Time does not permit me to read out the entire list today, but it is on stage for you to review. I hope it is. As a diplomat, he has been decorated by governments of Belgium, Chile, France, Spain, Thailand, and the Philippines. From this long list of stellar accomplishments in the public and private sectors, you can see why our awardee, who has been one of the leading future public policies and business advocates from the Philippines, is very well known at senior levels in Asia, in the United States, and Europe. As he now approaches in 78th year, I think we are the same age, he has slowed down upon the advice of his doctors. Over the last 2 years, many years, the Joint Foreign Chambers have worked with him as an advocate, and many of the reforms in particular we support. We would like to quote the following, where his leadership has been exemplary. He understands the importance of foreign investment on the Philippine economy, and he has worked very hard to encourage many of the world leading investment companies to invest in the Philippines. Information and technology and business outsourcing. He is an early champion of the industry and led the efforts to institutionalize ICT and the BPO as a key investment drivers for the Philippines. He helped to develop the country as an electronic production hub. He was an advocate of outsourcing and founded Outsource Philippines, the predecessor ITBPAP, and orchestrated the first road shows on outsourcing in New York and London. In less than 2 decades, these industries have grown now and represent approximately 10% of Philippine GDP and 1.2 million employees. As my colleagues on the JFCs and other chambers that we deal with are aware, Pamuri played a vital role in this development by promoting the Philippines as a preferred site for providing logistic and support services acceptable to international standards. By setting up the global office service operations in the Philippines, major MNCs signified their acceptance to the Philippines' ability to provide world-class services. As RHQs and Pamuri members are restricted to service only parent companies and their affiliates, they could not take advantage of this vast opportunity, allowing BPAP to do so. So on the criteria we established for the Philippines and entrepreneurs. He has long been a vocal advocate of the Department of Information Technology for all the right reasons. Finally, this year, the bill to create the ICT is being sent to the President. He has sought to find a peaceful and equitable solutions to the conflict national claims of South China Sea. 4 years ago, he organized an important international conference to increase understanding and suggest solutions. In the area of public health, he foresaw the opportunities in the Philippines as medical tourism and as a retirement destination. And as the chairman of the Zolig Company Foundation, he has worked for universal healthcare to address maternal and infant mortality and to expand PhilHealth. He most recently worked on engineering national preparedness to avoid natural disasters, typhoons, earthquakes, etc., and to minimize the impact. By now, I'm sure you all know who he is and have noticed that his presence is here. He is Ambassador Roberto Romulo. With the greatest of pleasure, I invite Bobby to join me on the stage. I'll just read the word. In recognition of the outstanding contribution recognition of outstanding contribution and superb leadership over several decades to achieve highly significant and lasting institutional policy reform of long-term benefit to the people and economy of the Philippines. This award is presented to Ambassador Roberto Romulo this first day of March 2016 in the city of Makati, Philippines. Congratulations. I will now request the awardee to give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwarshi. I can assure you that I will try to maintain my time of 10 minutes versus yours of 20 minutes. I'd like to express my profound gratitude to the Joint Foreign Chambers on bestowing this recognition. And I can assume that you see it as an encouragement of my endeavors, but not as a final judgment upon them, because so many of them remain unfulfilled. I always try to use the bully pulpit, one I have been privileged to access as a public servant and businessman, to offer solutions to vital issues of the day, and my commitment to doing this is as strong as ever. No matter which government is in office, my advocacy will always be about building a modern, prosperous, just and sustainable society. No one individual can accomplish the tasks attributed to me. So I accept this honor as a recognition for all those who have joined me in my efforts, and I share it with everyone who's doing their utmost to build a better Philippine society. And today, in keeping with this opportunity to address a distinguished gathering of the country's leading businessmen, I renew the call for what I believe should be the next administration's top priority. This is not a new topic. It is, in fact, part of the broader Arangkada advocacy. And it is this: investing in a climate and disaster-resilient agricultural sector. I'm not alone in recognizing the important role agriculture plays in our country. Secretary Abad recently, before a gathering of NGOs, was asked the question what the Aquino government might have done differently. His candid answer was agriculture. Former Director General Arsenio Balisacan, and Ciel Habito have also echoed the same sentiment for a stronger agricultural agenda in government. Indeed, recent organizations and government data show that the agriculture sector contributes only 0.2% to the increase in the economic growth for the country. This decoupling is most evident when one considers the numbers on this slide, which is not the one, okay? The sector is not just stagnant, it is deteriorating. Agriculture yielded the lowest productivity and the lowest incomes, with an average annual growth of 1.3% in the last 5 years. There is no shortage of academic papers on the role of agriculture and should be playing in our economic development. But despite all these programs, and despite all of academia and government programs, the question has to be asked, how come we have not made progress in moving this agriculture forward? Since I am a process and systems person, I would like to focus on the implementation of these policies and programs. Otherwise, they remain just ideals. I would like to share with you the experience of the Zulig Family Foundation in the health sector. Like health, agriculture services have been devolved to local government. However, programs and projects continue to be decided at the central level, with local governments having very limited capability to influence the strategic directions and design of these programs. What the foundation has done is to empower local governments by providing technical assistance, building their capacity to address the unique gaps in their local health systems through better governance and leadership. And I believe the Department of Agriculture in the future should provide more technical assistance and financial grants to local governments to make their agricultural service more responsive to the needs of their specific area. This may be a departure from centralized agriculture plan downloaded to the local regions, but I see it absolutely essential. If mayors and governors can raise agricultural productivity and increase farm incomes, then I would suggest an immediate reduction in the poverty level in the rural areas can be achieved. To support this, one of the priority actions the next government is to revisit the role of local government in agriculture. More than any other sector of our economy, agriculture is most vulnerable to the vicissitudes of nature. We cannot do much to prevent nature from taking its course, but much can be done indeed to mitigate its negative impact. The latest 2016 Climate Change Vulnerability Index counted the Philippines as the 13th most climate vulnerable of all 186 countries in the world. Today, the country is experiencing the 6th month of the worst El Nino event since 97 to 98 period. This impending scenario is upon us, then there is indeed no time to waste. Addressing agriculture today, both large-scale and smallholder, means addressing the most visible and most pressing manifestations of poverty: lack of livelihood, sustainable food supply, hunger and malnutrition, and even urban migration. A strong agricultural sector also prepares us for the impact of natural hazards and climate change, making us more disaster and climate resilient. Plans are indeed underway to establish a multi-stakeholder alliance to help bring agriculture to the forefront of our national agenda. The experience of the Zulich Foundation is improving maternal and infant health in partnership with local government units and subsequently with the Department of Health. And it offers useful lessons in such an alliance for agriculture can operate. The key lesson is to encourage local ownership and leadership for improving local outcomes and help build the capacities of mayors and governors to deliver needed services. While there is a clear need for bold solutions to guide the resurgence of agriculture, especially those relating to market access, finance, infrastructure, and other critical inputs, those who have the most at stake, those who have the greatest motivation to act in developing agriculture, should be in the driver's seat. The concept of this Alliance for Agriculture, with the vision of advancing pro-poor, climate and disaster smart solutions that will revitalize the agricultures, has been shared with a number of businessmen in Mindanao and Manila, and already support in the private sector for this initiative is evident. A good example of locally led climate-smart agriculture in Dumangas, Iloilo, where farmers and folk undergo climate change adaptation training in a climate field school recommended by the Manila Observatory and established by the local mayor. It's the first in the country and has resulted in a 30% increase in rice production. In the case of Yolanda, this very same mayor was able to be climate smart and disaster resilient. None of its inhabitants were ever in chaos. They were all evacuated. Mindanao, as the breadbasket of the country, is the ideal place to pilot this initiative. No area is more vulnerable to climate change than Mindanao, where agriculture contributes 65% to its economy. While climate change is affecting the entire country, Mindanao has been and will continue to be the hardest hit. Given its complex human security and development challenges, a resilient agriculture sector can potentially serve as catalyst for growth and stability for the entire region. In the coming weeks, we intend to consult with experts, national and local government representatives, business and civil society organizations on the feasibility of launching a multi-stakeholder alliance for agriculture. We hope that the outcome of those discussions will be an agenda that will advance and accelerate agricultural development in our country. And I invite all of you present here today to join us in this important enterprise. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to flag this important issue. It is something that will occupy much of my time in the coming years. My commitment to you is that I will continue to do what I can to drive initiatives that put empowerment and ownership where they can do the most good for agriculture, and that is more often than not at the local levels of our country. Once again, thank you for this Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you very much.
Congratulations once again to our Lifetime Achievement Awardee, Ambassador Roberto Romulo. Let's give him a big hand, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a 5-minute break as we prepare for the arrival of the Chief Justice. Justice Maria Lourdes P.A. Sereno, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the Philippines. To introduce our keynote speaker, let's all welcome the President of the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Philippines, Mr. Yoshio Amano.
Just for the starting, I'd like to say thank you very much to the Ambassador, Mr. Romuro, for your great, important initiative about our agricultures. You are saying that plans are underway to establish a multi-stakeholder alliance to help the bringing agriculture to the forefront of national development agenda. As JFC, we would like to support these ones and to bring this subject. Well, dear distinguished guests and friends of Arangkada, it is my great privilege to welcome and introduce our keynote speaker, the Chief Justice of the Republic of the Philippines, the Honorable Maria Lourdes P.A. Sereno. The appearance today of Chief Justice Sereno is significant in several ways. First, it provides an important balance to our 5 Arangkada Fora. Previously, we were addressed by President Aquino, by House Speaker Belmonte, and by Senate President Dillon. 2 years ago, Madam Chief Justice was also invited to speak at the same forum, but unfortunately and unexpectedly became ill. Thus, today, the balance is complete in that we have hosted the leaders of all 3 branches of the Philippine government. We had also anticipating to hear your insight for 2 years, and now the wait has ended. The subject you will be addressing, justice, the judicial system, the rule of law, are critical to the future of the Philippines, critical to the stable and predictable investment environment, critical to the welfare of every citizen and corporations in this country, whether rich or poor, a multinational or an SME. In my native language, Japanese, the word justice is a combination of 2 kanji characters pronounced as seigi, which first character means right, and the second character means morality and honor, which actually the very essence of justice. Around Southeast Asia, we often see that seigi, justice, is missing. We do not want to see government officials steal from the people and go unpunished. We do not want to see the minority population exploited and persecuted. We do not want to see people who seek to exercise basic political rights jailed or killed or exiled. We do not want to see indefinite rule by a single political party or leader, as well as state power seized by the military. We do not want to see contracts broken and ignored by governments. We do not want to see ecologically important coral reefs and forests unprotected and degraded. We do not want to see a large state building potential military bases at the very time that territorial claims are being arbitrated under the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas. Our region clearly needs much better safety justice. Here in the Philippines, there are many challenges to achieving right, morality, and honor. There is not enough time for me to discuss them, but I am confident our speaker will do so much better than I could. Our speaker, the Honorable Chief Justice Sereno, has had distinguished career since completing her legal studies at the University of the Philippines and the University of Michigan. She knows both the law and economic policy, having practiced both law at her law firm and being head of the policy center at the Asian Institute of Management before President Aquino appointed her to the Supreme Court in 2010. When her predecessor was impeached, President Aquino appointed her to her present position and became the first female Chief Justice. She still has 18 years ahead of her until she reaches the mandatory retirement. In less than 3 years of leading the Supreme Court, she has already started far-reaching reforms. We will now learn more about these as she speaks to us about our plans for faster, fairer, and equal justice.
Thank you. Please take your seats, friends. Thank you. I was just telling Mr. Amano that I'm so pleased that he happens to be the one to make what I had hoped would be a very short introduction, because he happens to be a friend of my husband, also a member of the business community. So allow me first to thank all the good friends and leaders that you have here who have made this invitation to the judiciary possible. I thank you, Rick Santos, John Forbes, Tom Grilly, Ryan Evangelista, Julian Payne, Gwenter Toos, Yoshio Aman, of course, Hoik Lee, and USAID Mission Director Susan Brems, Dan Molloy, and Shamin Kurashi. You are both leaders of the various foreign chambers of commerce and the USAID. And I know it was because of this joint effort, as so very eloquently explained to me by John Forbes a bit earlier, that has made this very prestigious forum possible. I am sorry I did not know that you were waiting for 2 years for me to say yes. Maybe it's because I was trying to rush so many activities within that 18-year time frame that I did not realize that actually 3.5 years have passed, Lilia. since you first lauded my having been appointed to the court. So now I actually have 14 and a half years more. And I take note of the words of Yoshio, who was saying that, to whom do we look up to? What kind of environment can we predict will be governing the various conflicts that we are facing as business leaders? I've known Ryan for a while, John, and your various advocacies. I've had a good friendship with Bobby de Ocampo. So basically, I think the commonality of the theme that you would want to pursue as you look forward to the next administration is to what extent the rule of law will be continued as a platform for governance, especially in the economic and business sector. And I think it is in the hope that the judiciary will somehow see a reformed face, a face that is more or less sensitive to the various problems that you're having, that you thought I would be able to make sense as I face you today. What I want to give emphasis to is the fact that the business community from day one, when I was appointed, has been my partner in integrity initiatives. And I credit that with Mondel Rosario's MBC and Baby Nuesa's JRI. And I still have your letter before my table, and I'm still agonizing whether I will agree to form another committee on integrity, considering that I have so much work already. But I understand your message. The message is you want to be a helpful pressure point to bring home the message that for us to have inclusive growth, for us to push our development agenda as a nation, we must see leadership that is credible, leadership that pushes for efficiency, yet with utmost integrity being the hallmark of all its actions. That is why I have taken pains to make sure that to the extent that we can, our actions are marked by transparency. And I note that some of you, with time that you can spare, had been listening to our oral arguments. And I thought that the oral arguments would have given you an idea of how we think and how we are trying to process conflicting positions. And this is basically what we try to do. In the context of conflicting positions, how do we choose what is right and what is just? But allow me to say that having been invited to speak as you observe your 5th anniversary, I think your timing and your theme could not have been any more appropriate as we are gearing up for the coming national elections. I will not talk about the elephant in the room. I know you want to ask me, I will not answer. The political changes that will accompany any administration, whether it is the one that is being endorsed by the present one or another, will definitely shape the economic milieu and influence short to medium growth trajectory of the country. And I was delighted with the thought that actually there is an attempt to even move forward so we can have a 2040 plan. Oh, how much I wish that we could think of generations and even several generations ahead, considering our various constraints now. So as you make recommendations on issues of global competitiveness, improved business conditions, and how to reduce poverty, you are actually going to be quite valuable in trying to give us the menu of options for choosing sound economic policies. But I believe that these economic policies cannot thrive unless the institutions are marked by professionalism and they are democratic ones. It is already beyond cavil. Our people reject dictatorships. Our people have embraced democracy. And if we are to thrive, it must be along the democratic lines. And therefore, in keeping with what I understand are the requirements for an effective judiciary in a democratic institution, in a young republic with so many complicated problems, I would like to tell you how we intend to bring about, from our end, a stable legal environment. I believe that courts are direct contributors to economic growth. However, we must, in order to achieve that role, consistently introduce reforms that ensure transparency and accountability while protecting the integrity of the institution. We must address the need to stabilize jurisprudence, our decisions, so that there is a fair degree of predictability of judicial outcomes and lesser propensity for disputants to prolong litigation. Allow me to just say that what I do not want is betting on judicial outcomes. What I would want to do is that to ensure that the band of variance in our decisions will be manageable so that your investment framework can already take into account the risks of an upside or a downside in the context of the time that it will take to resolve that. So the shorter the time, the lesser the variance or the bandwidth for these decisions, the more predictable and manageable your investment parameters will be. That is a core belief, and that is why I am pushing for very efficient, predictable, rational, and fast decision-making. And I had taken pains to explain at different events and public fora my long-term vision for the judiciary. Allow me to tell you that you might not yet have that plan 2040 for the economy, but I definitely have my plan 2030 for judicial and legal profession reform. In other words, while I have not gone to the extent of trying to give you the details of how I hope to end my retirement and what the milestones that I will be seeing will be, they are actually there and they are being pursued. Measurable in terms of quantity as well as in the quality of the outcomes. Now, the four pillars that I have told you before largely center on the themes of first pillar being integrity, second, the first are integrity and credibility, speedy judicial actions, infrastructure, systems and processes, and human resources. I think you would have there already the four pillars. I do not believe that even if I am able to say that all judges are going to go through cleansing of the ranks and everything, if the system itself is so inefficient, we will never be able to rid ourselves of dishonesty and corruption. Efficiency of the system must go hand in hand with the character that we are trying to require from our judges. So you have a systems overhaul, you have a human resources overhaul, you have quality checking from the time of entry to the judiciary all the way up to career mentoring, and you have performance evaluations all at the same time. At the same time, all of this will be submitted to public scrutiny so that our clients can demand from us measurable outcomes. So it is not a work that can be done without focusing on the core quality of the good judge. So my standard of the population of the judiciary, and the judiciary has about 2,300 to 2,400 judges and justices at any given time, is that of a good judge. And we will go to every extent possible to try to populate our ranks with men and women who are outstanding for their excellence. And we are already starting to reap the benefits of such a targeted approach. It is like I am the head of a headhunting agency that wants to choose only the best for what I believe is the most critical aspect of our democracy: credible judges. We have shown our part, our resolve to uphold the standard of the good judge by dealing with misconduct in the judiciary's ranks, whether it arises from corruption or from inefficiency. Because we cannot have a judge who seems to not be tainted with undue monetary influences, but still that judge is a laggard and will not produce. That cannot also be tolerated. So, as of December 2015, we have dismissed one Sandigan Bayan justice. And we have meted out penalties to 2,052 lower court judges from the beginning, from admonition, forfeiture of benefits, censure, fine, reprimand, suspension, and dismissal from service. This is not alone from the incumbents. This is also from those who have retired. This is accumulated number. While these actions may seem daunting from the perspective of an ordinary Filipino citizen, there is one statistic you would be most interested in. In 2015 alone, the Judicial and Bar Council, the one that tries to vet all applications for the judiciary, was able to process 8,496 applications for only 117 positions. That means that the judiciary is intensely competitive and attractive. I don't know whether our compensation is attractive at all. Compared to yours, I am sure you would not care to know how much I earn. But I think the message is clear. People of the legal profession are beginning to believe that a judicial career is a good career. Recently, we have had honor graduates, people from the top law firms, some of whom we have been dealing with, applying for judgeship positions. I think that they believe that we are now heading towards a meritocracy-based system. And we are returning to the time when becoming a judge is to gain a position of prestige and honor in the community. I would like to think that, because I have never seen such a qualitative appreciation of the position of a judge as I have now. Just imagine to be processing 8,000 applications in a year alone. So you have one MTC position here in Metro Manila, and you would find 140 applicants. And there have even been positions with around 220 applicants. So I think it speaks well of a possible future where the judiciary can regain its rightful place as the career of honor. Our Selections and Promotions Board for court employees are also starting to interview more professionally and intensely even positions for non-judge personnel. Now, in the area of speedy and rational disposition of cases, you have been talking about 5, 7, 10, and 20 years. And you are not exaggerating. I agree with you. It is too slow. But the real question is, are we doing something about it? And I can assure you that we are. We have already initiated a plethora of programs to address our docket decongestion on all fronts. I think in my earlier talk with the JRI and sometime in January with the financial executives of the Philippines, I had occasion again to talk about the Justiciae program and how a one-time decongestion program in Quezon City resulted in a reduced docket of 30%. In other words, in a space of 14 months, we were able to reduce dockets in those courts, around 38 courts in Quezon City, by 30%. So it can be done. You simply have to devote the time, resources necessary, and we can actually declog the docket. Now, after coming up with these figures, the conclusion is that if resources are just what is needed, and justice is something that you do not bargain away, or you do not become stingy about. What we did is to wage a campaign before the Department of Budget and Management with the President and Congress that it makes sense to concentrate a group of people to just go over the case files of judges with 500 or more cases. The practical reality you have of one judge being responsible for managing more than 500 cases. As CEOs, you would already be struck by the fact that it would be impossible to require him to manage those cases unless there is assistance given to him. For example, if your production line is breaking down, you would send a SWAT team to help that production unit. So, of course, what we tried to do is to identify the courts with clogged dockets. Many of these courts just inherited their dockets. So we asked Congress for money, and Congress gave us the money so that we received 260 million for 2016 to hire 635 case decongestion officers. And these are going to be deployed nationwide so that the necessary additional staff can be received by the courts that have these clogged dockets. And under the supervision of the court administrator, these judges are going to receive a decongestion plan. And we hope to sustain this effort for 5 years until we achieve a point where there will be no court with 500 or more cases, and we're able to eventually drive it down to a reasonable case-carrying capacity of only 300 cases per judge. Because any manager will always say, how many cases can a judge reasonably adjudicate? And if you are going to impose a continuous trial program for the judges, you cannot expect him to be able to do that unless you bring down his caseload to around 300. That makes sense. And you cannot penalize them for delayed decisions if their dockets are overly loaded in the first place. 260 million is a small amount of money. If we are able to reduce the docket by 10%, 20%, 15% a year for those courts that are being targeted, it is not a lot of money actually, but we solve the problem of justice. So we are now in the process of hiring the first batch. They are going to be trained in the special court case decongestion programs that we have templated and have been successful. And mind you know how successful this is, and I have suggested that the MBA students of AIM or the other business schools look at it. When we employed this case decongestion program for Quezon City, the officers, the case decongestion officers, were able to produce 33,000 case inventories. Now, anyone running a business school would jump at the data that can be generated by 33,000 case inventories, where you can even measure and identify what particular points are unnecessary that add to litigation time. It's like, really, we will be able to have a time and motion study for this entire process. So that if we are able to sustain it, hopefully the time will come when your own trials will be on a continuous trial basis, and you will be amazed at what the experiences will be. We have also recently amended the rules on small claims cases, increasing the threshold from 100,000 to 200,000. And with the support of the USAID and the American Bar Association, we have found out, now, this system does away with lawyers. Lawyers are prohibited from participating. 37% of the cases are disposed of and resolved based on the merits. 49% are settled amicably. Just imagine, if we do away with all those small things that can actually be patched up immediately. And we were able to reduce disposal from 4 to 6 months to only 75 days. So if we continuously try to look at these efficiency targets, you can imagine that if we sustain this on a national basis, and our monitoring is quite strict and rigid, we are really going to prove how fast the system can work. So we are now going to try to expand jurisdiction based on access to justice and parties' ability to represent themselves. So we are now, I know that many of you, your claims do not fall within that bracket, but I can tell you that many irritants for day-to-day Filipinos will be gone. You can have OFWs able to lend money, filing his affidavit, and sometimes actually the trial or the proceedings can take only a few weeks. So for an OFW who has a small claim, that will be an efficiency that the system can reward him with, because usually these leaves are only limited to 2 weeks. Now, another program that we have been piloting is the Continuous Trial Project. And it involves conducting continuous trial in high-impact cases by reinforcing strict observance of timelines in the rules of procedure. Motions for postponement are prohibited, trial dates are all set, and the trial dates are all set 1 day apart. And once set, they cannot be transferred at all. And the promulgation of the cases needs to be made no more than 90 days from submission of the case for decision. Many of your businesses are located in the Makati area. Several of the judges in Makati, Manila, Quezon City, I said that there are 52 volunteer courts, have already volunteered for the continuous trial system. And if we are able to get the data we think that we are able to get, we will be able to really find very surprising results. And if the results indeed indicate that we can have the capability to replicate this nationwide, my hope is that cases will be tried from beginning to end, from date of filing up to date of promulgation, no longer than 2 to 3 years from the start of the litigation. You think that I am too ambitious I'm too ambitious for my own sake? I don't think I am, because you see, I'm working with judges who are highly motivated. These are volunteer judges. And as long as we're able to unclog them of the many dockets that are plaguing their own courts, I think they will be able to produce the results that we want. So it is good for expectations to be set, but I'm saying already that these are just pilot programs that are being tested continuously. But if we keep on reporting these systems to the public, such as a forum like this, you can keep on talking about it. And you can ask your lawyers, why is our case not on a continuous trial basis? You can say that I am tired of retaining you for 5 years to handle my case. Maybe my budget for you will only be for a retainer contract for 3 years. Because if my case falls within the continuous trial system, why don't we end everything and have a decision in less than 2 years? The more you talk about the possibilities of these reforms, really touching your own cases, the greater the demand will be on us And there is no resistance on my part at all for you to make such demands. But I will continue to request also that when I go to Congress and explain to them the requirements of justice, that justice does not come cheap. We have to pay. We have to get the best if we want to get the best outcomes. I hope I can continue to rely on you to be our trusted partners. Now, our own court is clogged with cases. It is sad that some of you may have made remarks in media, print or otherwise, about the pace of Supreme Court decision-making without understanding how the whole thing works. When I came into the Chief Justiceship, I saw that there were more than 8,000 cases for adjudication, formally, 7,000 to 8,000. And the numbers are increasing on an annual basis. In other words, I don't know why people keep on filing petitions before the Supreme Court. Sometimes I keep on saying, is it a product of success? Possibly. Do they think that now they can go ahead and bother us because we seem to be listening to them more? If that is so, then we have to take the pains to weed out all those that are already in the docket that should not be decided by a Supreme Court. My own personal view is not all labor cases need to go to us. Not all ejectment cases need go to us. Not all seamen's compensation cases need to go to us. But the thing is, they do. My plate is full of trying to find out what kind of disease affected a seaman's ability to continue working in the boiler room. So, we have to take a hard look at whether we will just confine our time and attention to cases that really matter. And I tell you, since December, our docket has been filled with all the disqualification cases that have been decided on by the COMELEC and raised by us because everybody wants to run for president and senator and a party list representative. So, in addition to the work that is really, really very critical to us, we have hundreds and hundreds of election filings this year. And my prediction is our life will not be easier for 2016, not for 2017. So we have to have a systems check. If we need to have a lockdown and try to confront the issues that are bedeviling us, then we need to do so. If we need to measure our jurisdiction carefully this time, by giving the correct signal to the public that not every complaint can be raised to us, because we are all human, and there is a point at which we cannot really absorb more, then I think we need to communicate that. So we have a special team already looking at all the historical data, all the solutions that are out there. Just imagine the US Federal Supreme Court coming out with only 80 to 100 decisions in a year. That's a very, very small output compared to us, where we produce no less than 1,500 decisions in a year. So we have already gone to a system of barcoding all rolios, inventorying physically all the rolios, something that had never been done before. In other words, if you had an inventory, you would have done that. You have an inventory, you always know, and you always tag. But our inventories, our docket, our rolios, they have never been tagged. So we now have a barcoding system so that eventually the integrity of our records will also be beyond question. Of course, we are trying to, in other words, our problems right now require solutions from so many different angles. We cannot be content with solutions of the past. I had earlier in speeches that I had given to the business community, my approach is that our house is on fire, and at the same, so there are firefighting solutions that must immediately be deployed, even while I look at the systems and the long-term perspectives. I look at those also in order to solve the problems of the justice sector. Of course, automation remains top priority in the judiciary. I don't know how any of you can expect expansion, how any of you can repeat or improve your business processes without automation. That is also how I look at our work. We are in the business of delivering justice. And as with any business, our systems must have the best of automation. There will, of course, be a lot of human discretion and human judgment that automation cannot replicate. But the point is that there are so many things that we can do with the help of automation. And so, a few months ago, in the 2015 Social Goods Summit, I envisioned how the judicial process is to be done the e-way. Allow me to rephrase it today. A judicial dispute recorded the moment a complaint or petition is filed in the lower or high courts. Now, if you have automation, you also minimize the risks of loss due to natural disasters. Fire, flooding, earthquake, all the disasters that face our country. And that is why, while we cannot yet do away with the paper form, in the future we will do less and less with paper. So we are envisioning digital filing, recording of judicial records, computation of fees, payment itself, controlling numbers of every case docket, raffling of cases, management of the cases such as aging, reporting the incidents of cases. For example, the task before us, we have 640,000 cases nationwide in our lower courts. We must devise a system to eventually to bring all of those records under an automation umbrella. And the way the judge should be helped is that the automated system will already tell the judge about his due dates. And in order to come out with his resolution, there are template orders, decisions, resolutions. The aging of cases also, the number of detention prisoners that he must release or he must promulgate the judgment of, all of these can be automated. In other words, automation can make the best use of a judge's time. So even the filing of reports can already be done electronically. Research can be done electronically. Transcription can be done electronically. All of these can help mitigate the difficulties of his work and increase productivity of judges. Now, the previous processes I described are business processes at the presiding judge level. Every presiding judge will have an executive judge within a multi-sala station. And the executive judge must make sure that every one of his presiding judges are in time with his decisions. And the system is so networked that the executive judge knows the docket of everyone. It knows who is late, knows who is in danger of defaulting on a particular deadline. And as the leader of the group, that executive judge will counsel the presiding judge to make better use of the automated system and come out with his order or resolution fast. Now, from the executive judge level, the network goes all the way to the court administrator. So the court administrator centrally will know everything that is happening in all lower courts nationwide. The distribution, the aging, the problems, and there are already alarm levels. And at the highest level, everything is reported to me. So in its full flowering, I would have real-time access to the docket of every court in the Philippines. So that a time will come when I will no longer be clueless as to what is happening in a particular sala, even in a remote part of the country. So this is the Philippine e-court system. And there are two subcomponents I want you to realize: the automated hearing system and the judicial form templates. Now, imagine that Your customer, you always talk about your customer having the experience with your product. And you are saying that the experience is the most important part of the relationship between yourself and your customer. So is it with the justice system. The experience of a litigant in court is very, very important. So that when we launch the automated case management system, we wanted to heighten the experience of the litigant. And it goes like this. The judge will have a laptop on his table, connected to the laptop of his stenographer or legal researcher or clerk of court. The laptops are equipped with judicial templates. Before the hearing even proceeds, days before, the forms that the judge will issue on a particular order that is going to be heard that day is already downloaded. So when the hearing is called for that particular motion, counsel argues before the judge, and the judge will immediately, if he is well-trained, issue an oral order, right there and then. And while it is being dictated by the judge, the stenographer, clerk of court, or researcher is typing it on her laptop. And the judge is seeing it while it is being typed up, or the judge herself can type it on her laptop. Now, one judge even had bought a personal screen so that everybody in the courtroom could see the order as it was being typed up. So 15 minutes after the order is orally given, the parties already have a copy of the order. And it has so shaken the belief or the thinking of people that the justice system is agonizingly slow, such that you have real-life stories of people crying for the first time when 15 minutes after the order is given, the order of release is given to the jail warden for the release of the prisoner right then and there. And we have also lawyers taking selfies with their orders, because right after their hearing, they go back to their clients and then they charge you for their appearance fee. So it has revolutionized, for those who have experienced it, they could not believe it. Pwede pala itong ganitong klaseng system. In other words, it is as if you are there, you paid with your credit card or your cash, and you immediately get the goods. So if incidents like these can be replicated all over the country, we show not only that our judges are so good and so professional, we know how to make use of automation, and we value everybody's time. Because the usual system is that after the motion is argued, it is submitted for decision, and it takes about 2 weeks for that motion to be resolved. Then it takes another 2 months for that order to be mailed through the snail mail system. From 2 months to 3 months delay, we have only reduced it to as little as 15 minutes. So, and this is the kind of new judges that we are producing now. We are distributing laptops all over the National Capital Region. Some of our old judges are getting intimidated because now everybody is expecting that their orders will immediately be released. But I don't mind if you pressure them. So, and I wish USAID is here also, can distribute not only laptops but also wide screens. So people can see, right? Why don't we donate wide screens to courts? So that when the judge is typing the order on her desk, everybody is seeing it. Can you just imagine that courtroom experience? That would be a good project for you. I don't mind if you will prioritize the areas where most of your businesses are located. After all, how much is a wide screen? Not that much, no? But this is the kind of revolutionary out-of-the-box thinking that is needed to push everybody to be at his level best. Do you know that even in Tacloban City, we already have electronic courts? We build better. So in Tacloban City, our courts are automated. We have electronic courts. By 2016, we hope that the entire NCJR will have the automated hearing system so that you can experience it. Now, it of course has to be supported by an entire backroom operations, which we call the Enterprise Information Systems Plan. It is a 5-year master plan. I hope I am not exaggerating it. Is it possible that we have the biggest chance of sustaining an ICT plan nationwide? It is possible. Because if we estimate that it will take no less than 5 years for us to accomplish this, and if we have slip-ups and problems and we have to retweak, you give us an allowance of 7 years, maybe in the year 2022, we will already have nationwide connectivity for all courts where everything is now automated. The budget is 3.995 billion, exclusive of the laptops and hardware for each individual judge, which we are trying to raise separately. And we have several aspects to this. Not only do you have the infrastructure for the real-time experience of judges that I was explaining to you, we need network security and nationwide connectivity. And that is why my appeal is for the telcos to please improve your bandwidth. I don't think this is a foul call, no? This is a much-needed call. If you want our courts to be connected nationwide and where we can run to them and help them at any point, please increase your bandwidth. We have also Supreme Court Data Center upgrade and disaster recovery sites, so we will have about 14 regional sites, all in all, so that whatever disasters happen, we will know how to save our data. And we have digital filing, archiving, records management system, of course, an entire database program. All right. Is it just a dream, or is it really something that is slowly being implemented? And I can assure you that there are concrete steps that are already being done here. I can't see the screen from my end, but I hope this corresponds to what is in the screen. We have already implemented the upgrade of the main data center in the Supreme Court in Padre Faura. We have a disaster recovery data center in Angeles City. We tried to find the best location for the secondary site. We already have the virtual integrated systems infrastructure, among others. And procurement of important data centers will also begin from 2016 to 2018 in the Visayas, in Lapu-Lapu City, in Mindanao, for Davao City, in Southern Luzon, Tagaytay, and also in Tuguegarao, Ilocos, and General Santos City. On your screen also are mission-critical application systems and related projects, which we are prioritizing as of the moment. Ongoing procurement include the hearing management system, or voice-to-text transcription, digitization of court records, legal resource management system, lawyer information system, and judiciary-wide email. For the lawyer information system, we hope this will eradicate completely the fly-by-night phenomenon of lawyers. And everyone who wants to enter the system must have a single identification number that will track him from the time he applies for membership in the bar, to take the bar examination all the way until he ends his professional career with us. That will tag also everything about him, penalties, suspensions, etc., compliance with continuing legal education requirements, service, for required pro bono work, etc. That way, we hope to professionalize the regulation, not only of the bench, which we have already been doing right now, but also of the bar. For procurement also are the PhilJust e-learning management system, where we are going to make the best use of technology to expand our training capabilities. And please note, PhilJust for 2015 and 2016 is now becoming increasingly a site for international learning and training. For this first quarter alone, we were able to host 3 important international conferences. And this is in line with my projection to increase the visibility of the Philippine judiciary and show our capability to be a reliable international partner in the rule of law. Thank you. For procurement also, and soon, from 2016 to 2018, are other systems. Document records management system with e-courts enhancement, enterprise resource planning system, which is like your SAP, including finance, HR, logistics, assets management, to name a few. Okay, so this is very ambitious for people who only read law books. I can understand. For you, maybe it's not ambitious, but for us, actually, we were asking ourselves whether we were correctly assessing our capabilities. But I don't think that we can deliver justice any other way. I mean, if you can do it, why can't we, right? So, we are trying to upgrade our infrastructure master plan. We were able to complete the rehabilitation of 29 halls of justice. We are rehabilitating 18 more. And we are procuring and awarding contracts for 61 courthouses now. It has never happened before that there was this ambitious infrastructure program. So actually, I have been appealing to some of you, and some of you have known. Actually, it is not our core competence to be doing this. That's why I was talking to Cosette here, but she disappeared. I was telling her, we are good at adjudicating. Why should we be worrying about building our courthouses? Why don't we have a good contract and we will manage that contract so we will make the experts accountable for their deliverables to us in terms of halls of justice, construction and maintenance, while we focus on adjudicating. But in the meantime, while we cannot do that yet because the framework for the judiciary to do that has been abandoned by Cosette. No, she is denying that. She's not going to abandon the idea. While we are trying to find a solution to unload the burden to the private sector, we nevertheless have to continue building and attending to these halls of justice because it simply cannot be that we will abandon them. So while we are doing our best within our capabilities to do justice by our people, by ensuring that the infrastructure is there, hopefully the private sector can come in to relieve us of this heavy burden. And, well, that is an appeal. So we are trying to we have created a special bids and awards committee. And you see, the reason why we made public the plan to build the new Supreme Court complex is the Supreme Court is the symbol of a nation's modernity and its commitment to the rule of law. If it cannot have something that it will at least equal its stature in the ASEAN, then it is not worth having any plan for a Supreme Court building at all. So my idea is government must give us the necessary money so that we can have a courthouse that we can be truly proud of. And so, very fortunately, Congress and the President listened to that. And soon we will be coming out with a call for international design competitions. I hope that people will be excited about reimagining justice for the modern Filipino in a way that respects the best traditions of our 114-year history. And I would like to say that Congress was very accommodating to a request for the first time of really putting in the infrastructure budget for the halls of justice in the Supreme Court. For the longest time, our courts were built by the Department of Justice or by the local government units. No more. We set the standards. We want our courts to speak of the dignity and majesty of the law, the professionalism of our judges, and the sensitivity that we have for litigants. So those must be the standards. And in order to have those standards, we must be in charge of the budget for that. So we were given by Congress, and again, I will bank on you to help me again when we make our next pitch. Thank you. So we have also begun implementing management techniques in general management and organizational development. I may be running already out of time, but allow me to just, we have a 30,000 strong workforce. Anyone trying to manage 30,000 people understands that no less than a systems perspective must be brought to fore. So I have been fortunate to be listening to some discussions from the best management gurus. I have a husband who gives me tips on management. We have so many management magazines lying around the house, and I happen to always be reading some of them. So I thought that we should actually start setting the standard for public service. I don't know whether you think that's a big goal, but I told everybody, the judiciary must set the standard. The gold standard for public service must be found in the judiciary. Thank you. And nobody has resisted the idea. So I said, we start with our budgeting system. It used to be before that they would just add X percentage over the previous year's budget and submit that. I said, no, needs-based budget. We really identify resource requirements for every specific process. It must be outcomes-based. I want to produce how much decisions will be produced by X millions of pesos. I want to know how many personnel will be needed to have this kind of turnover of outputs. So on that account, we have already started the budget process. And last year, I think the DBM said that we were one of the first to present a very much improved budget. And I think, again, for this year, we will be able to beat them to that. And because of the transparency of our budgeting process, with all the justifications for every single item, there are not any more problematic questions being raised by them. In other words, we want an outcome, we ask for the resources to produce an outcome. It is that plain and simple. Of course, we are also the product of a very difficult government bureaucracy system. So we have to be sensitive to that. We are a very far cry yet from the professionalized system that you have in the private sector. But I can already tell you that there has been a 180-degree turn in the way that we have presented our budget proposals to the DBM, to the President, and to Congress. For the next 2 years, I will be focusing on performance measurements, where X unit can produce X output, and eventually we will really be able to lead to an incentives-based productivity incentive system, a productivity-based incentive system. You have that, that's very ordinary for you. We don't have that in the public sector. So maybe I'm dreaming too much, but I want a lot of the things you have, a lot of the things you're taking for granted. So we are now taking training for other government, for our own people and for other government agencies to a higher level. So many agencies right now are asking us for help in the training of their personnel. We have a world-class Philippine Judicial Academy, and one day I would be glad to tour you in the facilities. We are going to project that as an international training academy worthy of the Chief Justice, worldwide, and especially in Asia and the Pacific, to visit and enjoy themselves in. So we have also developed core competencies in judicial research as well as international law. Meanwhile, I see my role as critical in pushing for a rule of law, not only in the judiciary, but also in my partners in the justice sector. You have the DOJ, which supervises both the PAO and also administrative supervision over the PAO and the NAPROS, National Prosecution. You also have, and you have the PNP. Unless the PNP, the prosecutors, and the defense, and the IBP, and the judiciary work together, we cannot have justice, especially in the criminal justice system. So what I did is, taking off from a 2010 agreement, we have sat down the heads of these agencies to map out a problem for the justice sector. And we have drawn up a justice map. And the map requires 88 nodes or points of attention, some of them requiring coordinated activity. So that on a pilot basis, we have chosen Quezon City and said, why don't you pilot joint training for forensics, for the judges, the police, the prosecutors? Why don't you have coordinated calendars? And so in Quezon City, the prosecutors and the judges and the public defenders, or the PAO, they do not go on leave unless everything is coordinated, because every unexpected absence is delay for the criminal justice system, and somebody languishes in jail further, or a conviction is delayed. Whatever it is, the system suffers. So I request everybody, can you just sit down and talk about this? In the private sector, you know, you have common activities, you talk. But before, in the justice sector, we operate in silos. This is no longer the future. The future is coordination, where coordination is will best achieve the justice goals. Likewise, I have been pushing for greater independence for the constitutional commissions, the three independent constitutional commissions, the Ombudsman, the CHR, and the judiciary. You know, at the end of the day, the political branches, meaning the executive and the legislative, the leadership there will come and go. But the ones that will ensure that you have a democratic way of life will be the judiciary, will be the ombudsman, will be the three independent commissions, and the CHR. If we are professional and do not give in to politicization, your future is more or less assured. If the performance of public service is consistently required by the Civil Service Commission, by the Ombudsman, and over public funds and property, the Commission on Audit. And if we try to make sure that the rules are fair, even, and speedily dispensed, then you have a system, an entire government bureaucracy that can see the hope of being professionalized from the bottom up. Because if we remain neutral, if we remain apolitical, if we remain professional, only require the best of public servants, then your best allies are us. Your best allies are us. So I will be asking you to help not only the judiciary, but the other independent constitutional agencies as well. Regularly, we have been meeting, and I say, it is so important for people to believe in us, now more than at any other time in history. Because we can bring the bureaucracy's performance up if we say that this is what is required by the law and this is what is expected by the people. So I will now end, because I think I've overshot my time. But I've taken pains to explain this to you, because I think that unless you see concrete plans on the ground, you will not believe me. Because I think that at the end of the day, you will want to see action really being performed, not only being spoken of. So I thank you, because you have been very reasonable partners, and you have been reliable partners. And I thank you for continuing to encourage me. Mon and everybody else, Bobby, all of you have been telling me, continue to do the work that you have been doing, and I intend to do so until 2030. Thank you very much.
Our greatest appreciation and admiration, Chief Justice Sereno. Thank you for joining us today. May we ask the presidents of the JFC to please go on stage for a souvenir photo with the Chief Justice. Once again, may we remind you to kindly complete the evaluation forms placed on the table and to submit it to the ushers as you leave the room. We value your feedback. Thank you very much. And now to formally conclude today's forum, may we call on the President of the Korean Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Mr. Ho Ik Lee.
First of all, it is my honor to deliver my speech for closing remarks. Actually, this closing remarks goes to President Aquino, but he couldn't join tonight. We got a reply from 6 days ago. He got some urgent things. So anyway, it is really my honor to deliver my speech for the closing remarks. Distinguished guests, friends of Arangkada, on behalf of Joint Foreign Chambers and the Arangkada Philippines Project at the American Chamber of Commerce, I wish to profoundly thank all the speakers, moderators, panelists, corporate and media sponsors, and the organizational staff, including Marriott Hotel, who made today a very successful event. We also thank all those who are attending from the private and public sectors and media. We are all partners in Arangkada to move country twice as fast. We end this forum with a better idea of the challenges of investment climate and the economy, as well as broader menu of solutions to these challenges. Of course, it would be very difficult to summarize in a few minutes the amazing variety of ideas that we have heard today.
JFC will be preparing a Forum 2016 report that highlights and organized the main proposals. The report will be provided to candidates for the national office, sponsors, media, and delegates. The Philippines has tremendous potential. When the Korean-American president of World Bank, Dr. Jin Yong Kim, visited Manila 2 years ago, he explained to President Aquino that when he grew up in Korea, his land of birth was less developed than the Philippines. He said, "We wanted to know why the Philippines had fallen so far behind in Asia." We have heard some of the answers today. By the mid-century, the Philippine population could reach 170 million, according to the one prediction, which would make Philippines the 10th most populated country on earth. What will life be like for all those people in just 34 years? Will the engine of the economy be running on all cylinders? Will the poverty rate still be above 20%? Will the most workers, including farmers and fishermen, have a decent job, middle-class lifestyles? Will the environment remain degraded? Will income inequality be more or less extreme? Will there be better justice? Will Filipinos be better educated and healthier? Will goods and people be able to move about the air, land, and sea efficiently and safely? Will there be fast and inexpensive internet, abundant power and water? Will the corruption and the poor governance and red tape be related to the history books? Will the Philippines catch up with Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand? Or it will be fallen behind Vietnam as well? The list of questions could be endless. Maybe we cannot know the answers for the Philippines at the mid-century. But we do know what is done in the next decade will make a great difference. If the next decade see bold and inclusive reform put into place, then the subsequent decade will be more prosperity and much less poverty. There should be no alternative than to continue to Arangkada. Joint foreign chambers are committed to investing in a better future for the Philippines. Thank you, and I wish you have a wonderful rest of the evening. Maraming salamat po. 감사합니다.